we'll have a meditation, and then if anyone has any questions afterward today in a class in Europe, it's about patience. It's about organic development of an inner life. It's really about time that becomes your friend and truly helps you to grow. And, and it's really essential to have patience with yourself and not get frustrated because, and one of the ways to do that is just remember what life was like 3 months ago, 5 months ago, and see the changes that have taken place through the meditation and how they've really enabled you to begin to touch deeper elements inside yourself. It's very important. Rudy said it better than anyone. It's even in one of my books. I wrote a book of aphorisms and I use that. He said it takes 9 months to have a baby, and it takes 1 second to die. It took Rudy 36 years of working on himself to get his enlightenment. And in 1 second, we hit a mountain and he went to God. So you all have to remember that it really is, having patience, allowing the strength to develop inside, the inner life to develop, consciousness to develop. And that really determines where one goes in their spiritual practice. It truly does, because it's easy to find fault and it's easy to find reasons not to do. It's very difficult to consistently do, to be able to use whatever, energies you've built up in your life to overcome, all the blocks and things that keep you from, evolving inside. So I'm asking you, have patience. I've been doing this for a very long time, and it's only over years that it all began to get clear to me what this is all about and how important it was in terms of building my life and my connection, with God and higher energy in the universe. So we'll have a meditation class, and then afterwards, if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
May I ask you, S-H-A-K-T, scat, what does it mean? S-H-A-K-T-I, Shakti?
S-H-A-K-T-I?
S-H-A-K-T-I.
Shakti. Shakti.
Shakti.
That's the energy that's transmitted in the meditation. It's the energy of God really that flows through and it's transmitted in meditation.
Shakti.
It's a female principle, actually, Shakti. Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart?
Yes?
How is it that Shakti is a female principle?
I don't know. I've just read it, and that they always show images of Shakti as a female energy. And sorry, you stumped me. Well, maybe I can come back with an answer. I don't know, but right now it's been a long day. I don't know. But every time I see images that people create of Shakti, it's always a female principle, female energy. You know, it's Shiva Shakti. You know, I mean, they talk about Shiva Shakti, which is the union of Shiva with his consort. It's the male-female union, so that when this energy is transmitted, you understand, it goes into the chakra system, and literally, well, in the sexual area, it becomes a union of Shiva and Shakti, male-female principle, unified. I mean, in Tibetan Buddhism, also Hinduism, you see all the gods, all the Rinpoches, the gurus, the, you know, Bodhisattvas, they all have consorts. In Tibetan Buddhism, it's called Yabyum. The male-female, you know, is called Yabyum. In Hinduism, it's called Shiva Shakti. Shiva is the masculine. Shiva is often I've seen in temples depicted as a phallus, you know, and then it's the union of the Shakti with the Shiva. I mean, you know, when we were in Kathmandu, when I was in Kathmandu, we used to go to Pashupatinath a lot to do meditation. And it was quite an extraordinary, I don't know how many of you have ever been there, but it's really something of another dimension, that place. And I would go there with 20, 30 people, and we would sit down and do meditation. And all along the temple, there were these sculptures that were quite incredible, done in the 4th, 5th, 6th century. And there was a Nandi, or a bull, and it was facing a lingam and a yoni with a lingam coming out of it, which was the male-female principle, the Shiva Shakti. And behind it was a cobra that was rising, which is the force of Kundalini. So, you know, throughout history, there's always been that male-female. I mean, even God had a consort in the mystical Jewish religion, you know, Mary, you know, the Virgin Mary was the consort of God, created Jesus. So there's always been the union of male-female in every religion. And in Hinduism and Buddhism, it's that Shakti Force, which is the female energy force that unifies. I had to get over my tiredness and talk about this. It came out, you know, I mean, which unifies, you know, the male-female principle, which is an essential ingredient of anybody who's going to have a spiritual life. There has to be harmony and balance. I mean, even in a macrobiotic diet, for God's sake, there's the talk of the union of the male-female according to the foods that you eat, the yin and the yang. So that principle permeates every religion. I mean, Muhammad and Fatima, you know, it's always that male-female principle that is in every religion and in every human being, because all of those, you know, depictions and what they talk about is literally a metaphor for what exists inside each and every one of us. We need the Shakti. The Shakti is fuel, it's energy that comes into us, that unifies with the force of Shiva, the male principle that's inside every person. Whether you're masculine or feminine, it doesn't matter. That gives birth to Kundalini. It also, in the heart center, can give birth to gratitude, you know, and devotion and service. You know, that union of the male-female in the heart chakra. So, I mean, that basically is what it's all about, you know? I mean, I'm sorry I couldn't answer it immediately. It's been a long day. But basically, that's really what it's about. We need to unify the male-female principle. What flows through me is that female energy, that Shakti that goes into each person that studies. And then there's a marriage that takes place of the male-female. And that helps us transcend all this stuff about, you know, men and women and all the stuff that goes on in the world. I mean, when a person unifies that male-female energy inside themselves, there's no longer a discrepancy between men and women. You understand? Yes, it goes on because people are crazy and women have to get paid less money and, you know, all that bullshit that goes on, which is just stupid. It's a product of the mind, you know? But in reality, if that crazy person that says women got to get paid less would unify the male female, give the woman a raise, I promise you, the woman would get just the amount of money that the male would get if they would just do that, but they don't because it's all in their heads. You know, stupid, you know, all this whole stuff of, you know, sexual abuse and all this stuff that goes on in the world, you know, it would all come to an end if people would unify that male-female principle in themselves. Because then it's love, it's gratitude, it's, you know, you treat people like human beings because there's a wholeness inside. There's not this dichotomy of energy that I am better than you, or, you know, it's all bullshit, you know?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, that's the problem. That's really the problem in the world. I mean, and nobody talks about this. You know, nobody talks about this. I talk about it. Nobody talks about it, you know, which is really strange because they don't know about it. They've never studied deep meditation, deep spiritual practice. So this is a completely foreign subject to people. So they're left with what goes on in their brain, you know, which is fear, greed, you know, self-importance and all that crap that just creates so much madness in the world. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And I'm not naive. I know all that stuff goes on, but I look at it and it lacks any consciousness, any inner work, any inner development that a human being can gain if they would take time to study and work on themselves. Not just what I do, and, you know, I'm sure there's other people that, you know, teach things like this. And that really is the important thing, because once that wholeness exists, nobody's better than anybody else. As Rudy said, you know, a teacher is, you know, not God, a teacher is the servant of God, the servant of his students. You know, somebody who runs a firm is the servant of his employees, as well as the servant of a higher energy that at least gives him the blessing of being able to make $50 million a year to run a bank, you know? But people don't see it that way. They see self-importance. And then you have all these nightmares that go on in the world. Racial nightmares, you know, religious nightmares, all this stuff that goes on that just represents total lack of consciousness on the part of human beings. Does anyone else have a question? Whoa, you got a serious answer. Question.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Stuart, how does, like, let's say it was the Shiva Shakti principle, Shakti's energy, I guess Shiva would be more like stillness or consciousness. How does the Shiva principle interact with that?
How does what?
How does the Shiva principle like play out in the meditation?
Well, you know, the Shiva is the male energy inside. And if you open, you know, you will come to that place where there's that energy that receives the feminine energy, and there's that marriage that takes place inside you. And that's how it works. I mean, and then it produces Kundalini, it produces knowledge, wisdom. I mean, you know, there's another element of Shiva that is in Hinduism, and that's the Nataraj, you know, the dancing Shiva that really is the crown of a human being. Dances, it's a pathway to God. And it's all the movement of everything in the universe. And when you open, you experience this. You know, you experience this, and you experience the marriage of male, female. And I mean, and as far as defining it, I can't define these things, you know? These things have always been living experience for me. I've never been able to define them. People are coming to class now. I mean, I've never been able to define them. I just have had these experiences through Rudy's meditation practice. So I don't know how to define Shiva. I mean, I'm sure you could look it up in a book, and there's some theologian who can give you 50 definitions of the meaning of Shiva. It's not my field. I don't operate that way. I just operate through experience and the openness and embracing energy as it totally transforms my life. That's how I operate in this. I mean, that's how I function. And I learned this from Rudy, because also Rudy was never a theological scholar. He always told people he doesn't talk theology, and it was all energy. And it was all the transformations that take place inside that allows one to use this energy in their life. And to me, this is a more incredible way to live than to know, to define these principles and everything. I mean, I don't want this to be in my head. I really want this to be living experience, what we do. I mean, I have a photograph somewhere of myself in Pashupatinath, where there was a guy who studied with me. He was a National Geographic photographer, and he took a photograph of me with 3 or 4 of these Nagababas, you know, these guys, these sadhus that, with all the matted hair, and, you know, every one of them was stoned on some kind of hashish. And I'm sitting there in the middle of these guys who were completely fascinated by what we were doing. As we were sitting and meditating, they were sitting there and just staring at us, you know? And they knew something extraordinary was going on, you know? That it wasn't something in their ordinary experience. So they wanted to take a picture with me. So I have a photograph somewhere of myself with the Nagababas. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart.
Yes.
I've been coming up with some very things that are part of my nature that I didn't know about. They're coming up in a way that makes me, and I feel really grateful for it, but very vulnerable at the same time. And I really want to
Claudia,
get
what's
away.
the question?
I'm still working on the fear
You're
of
still
dying.
working on it.
The fear of dying, and I know it's more than that.
Claudia, it's not the fear of dying, Claudia. It's the fear of living, and all those things are coming up in you to show you that it's the fear of living, not the fear of dying. Once you get over the fear of living, you'll have no fear of dying. I mean that. The fear of, you know, living in the world, of opening to God, of developing consciousness. I mean, that really is the fear in people. It's not the fear of dying. Because there isn't, once you overcome that fear of living your life, once you become a servant of God and you completely surrender your consciousness to a higher level, there's no fear of dying, because you have embraced life, and then you realize life and death is just one and the same energy. You know, what dies is the body. You know, the rest of us, the soul just continues on its, you know, on its voyage and its learning process to evolve and become one with God. So it truly is the fear of living that creates the fear of dying, you know?
Would you say that that's being my passivity is coming out, and
Look,
I am loving life more than I ever have.
good. So then love it even more, and then you won't be afraid, you know, of anything.
Yeah. Okay.
And all that stuff is coming up to just remind you that you have deeper work to do on yourself.
Yeah.
That's it, you know?
Yeah.
And once you get to where the fear goes away, then there's no fear of dying, because there's no fear of living. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And this is a hard one, because this is not just for Claudia, this is for all of us. We all have to go through this. You know, getting to a place where there's a fearlessness. And by that, I don't mean we become, you know, doing crazy things, you know, but just this, you know, the world we live in is a miracle, is God's world. It's sacred. Everything in this world is sacred. It's a great temple. And we have to stop being afraid of living in it. Once that happens, we discover the temple extends through life, through death, to the next lifetime, to eternity. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, there'll be a class tomorrow evening, and God bless you all. Thank you for being here. And Scott, thank you for that question. It woke me up. Great.
It's good for all of us.
We're so tired. I mean, you know, I told people today, you know, I mean, look, I said, I teach 7 of these classes a week. These are not easy to go through. So like today, there's 50 something people who are in meditation. You know, it's a lot. And I also told people today, you know, people come, they don't come, they disappear. I don't see them for 2-3 weeks. And honestly, when people do that, I just take their name off of my list, you know, because I can't teach people that do that. I can only teach people that make a commitment. You know, they're there 2-3 times a week. And if something, you know, like, you know, somebody like Chris had hurt her back and she emailed me, and, you know, Asisa had to leave early, but I know about these things, you know, and I told her she can leave early because, you know, she's also not been feeling so well. So if people get in touch with me, everything is all right. But if people disappear, I see them once every 2 weeks, or I can't teach people that come like that. I really can't. I mean, I am not, you know, an injection, you know, I'm not a shot in the arm that's going to give you a little energy so that you can, you know, you can go take some ginseng or something, you know, and get energy to get you to the next day. I mean, people are here to learn this, and they can't learn it unless, you know, there's a commitment. And when I see people just kind of disappearing or showing up, I just take their name off the list, because there's nothing I can do to teach them, you know, which taken me 30 and 40 years to learn. I can't pass that on. If people make a commitment, I promise you'll get it in quicker than 30 years. And it really transmits very quickly. So I'm just asking you that. I'm saying it. I said it to the people today in Europe and Israel. And it's just something that in order for this to work, there has to be a commitment on my part, and there has to be a commitment on the part of people that attend. And then it really works in a very profound way and very quickly, for God's sake, very, very quickly. So please, everyone, have a wonderful evening and God bless you all. And I have deep gratitude for what goes on here and for every single person that attends these classes. And my commitment is real to all of you. It's not that, you know, I don't have favorites here. You know, everybody is a child of God here and everybody deserves the greatest effort I can possibly make to transmit this Shakti and energy so people can grow. And what I'm really looking forward to is when all this COVID thing is over with, you know, I can get a place and people can come or they can live there, not the place, but in that area and have regular classes and do hands-on healing and retreats and, you know, really make this much more personal than through a computer. So God bless you all and thank you. And hopefully I'll see everybody tomorrow evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.